Chapter 41 Shadow Cloak and Spiritual Thorn, please read later. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 41 Shadow Cloak and Spirit Thorn, please read later. The core area of the entire Far East territory covers a full range of dozens of miles. At this time, there are thousands of secret guards distributed within these dozens of miles, forming a series of cordons, family secret guards. The Golden Lion family is indeed prepared. At this time, in a place not far from the core area, two people were hiding in the dark, and one of them spoke softly, "Don't make trouble, act according to the plan." The shadow spell engraved on the shadow cloak is only enough for two people to use. During this time, we must find the location of that kid and kill him with one blow. The other person spoke seriously. It is irrational to forcefully break through the cordon of the Golden Lion family, so since the people from the Black Clothes Seeking Tao Association dared to come this time, they were naturally prepared. The magic weapon is their reliance. Let's start. After killing that kid, don't stay too long. Go directly. There are people from our periphery to support you. Seemingly feeling that his companions were a little unreliable, Narain reminded him again. I understand. How could a knight imagine how great a creation a magic weapon is? Although the man said he understood, his tone was mostly nonchalant. Narain also knew that this was his character, so he did not continue to persuade him, so he took out a pure black cloak from the backpack behind him and put it on. After putting on the cloak, Narain muttered to himself. After a while, a black light flashed on the cloak, and Narain's figure disappeared directly. This is exactly the witchcraft engraved on the shadow cloak, zero-ring witchcraft shadow spell. The other person took the cloak and repeated Narain's action just now. After a while, his figure also disappeared. The two disappeared abruptly, as if they did not exist between heaven and earth. It was really disappearing directly, just like being invisible. If Chenmu saw this scene here, he would probably be shocked. This is the magic weapon. As a magic weapon created by the Shadow School, the shadow cloak engraved with the shadow spell is the real core zero-ring witchcraft of the school. The core zero-ring witchcraft of a school, after being engraved in the Sea of Spirit, can be upgraded to the first-ring witchcraft after becoming a formal wizard. This alone shows how powerful this witchcraft is. To directly cast this level of zero-ring witchcraft, at least a third-level wizard apprentice is required. In fact, Chenmu is lucky that the Black Seeking Society has a magic weapon engraved with similar auxiliary witchcraft. If it is an attack witchcraft, then Chenmu can go to bed. Although the meditation method practiced by the people of the Black Seeking Society is rubbish, it must be said that the witchcraft they learn is the witchcraft of the real Shadow School. Let's go to the Golden Lion Manor first. A voice suddenly appeared in this deserted area, Golden Lion Manor, the room where Chenmu lives. In the room, Chenmu was lying on the bed, holding a copy of Kingdom's Strange Stories in his hand and reading it with relish. His room is very close to Earl Arthur's room, only separated by a wall. This room was also chosen by Earl Arthur for Chenmu's safety. This is more bizarre than a wizard, and the person who wrote this book is really brave. Holding the thick book, Chenmu sighed slightly. The Kingdom's Strange Stories in Chenmu's hand is somewhat similar to the novels he read in his previous life. In this world, such books are also a kind of recreational reading. Seeing the dark sky outside through the window, Chenmu closed the book in his hand and put it aside. Since crossing to this world, Chenmu has not stayed up all night. His work and rest schedule is definitely unimaginable in his previous life. He goes to bed early and gets up early, which is very regular. It would be difficult for him to fall asleep in his previous life if he didn't stay up late. The oil lamp was turned off, and the room fell into darkness. Chenmu lay on the bed and closed his eyes. As time passed, Chenmu's breathing slowly calmed down. Squeak! Suddenly, an extremely subtle sound came into Chenmu's ears. Chenmu, who was lying on the bed, suddenly opened his eyes. In the dark room, his eyes were unusually bright and shining. Although Chenmu's work and rest schedule is very regular, he actually sleeps very lightly, and he can sense even the slightest movement in his light sleep state. The window made a sound. I'm sure the window is locked. Chenmu's mind was entangled. The next moment, he pretended to turn over and looked at the window inadvertently. Chenmu, who was already a great knight, could see the night as day, and the dark room could not block Chenmu's sight at all. There was nothing abnormal. The window was still tightly closed, without a single gap. It seemed that the sound Chenmu heard just now was an auditory hallucination. However, Chenmu was sure that it was not an auditory hallucination just now. Since he became a great knight, his hearing has improved a lot. Although the sound just now was extremely weak, he was sure that he heard it. If he was a formal knight at this time, he might not hear the sound just now. Is it the sound of the wind? Chenmu thought slightly in his heart, but at this time he was already on high alert. Or is it someone from the black clothes seeking Dao society coming? Chenmu was not sure in his heart. Although there are thousands of secret guards guarding the manor, the methods of wizard apprentices can be said to be all kinds of strange. Chenmu did not dare to guarantee whether the people of the black clothes seeking Dao society had the means to avoid the secret guards and find him directly. Squeak! Another subtle sound. This time when the sound was made, Chenmu was lying on his side, and his attention was always on the window, so at the moment when the window made a sound, he suddenly saw a gap in the window, but in the blink of an eye, the gap disappeared. The gap in the window seemed to have never existed, and this scene made Chenmu doubt his eyes. Illusion. Or a trick? Chenmu was shocked, and even his heartbeat speed increased a little in the moment. Squeak! Another extremely weak sound. This time Chenmu could be completely sure, because the window he saw this time was completely open. There was no figure behind the window as Chenmu imagined, and there was no one behind the window. Suddenly, Chenmu seemed to see a pair of deep eyes behind the window. The next moment, he felt a shock in his mind, as if a huge voice sounded in Chenmu's ears. Black Clothes Seeking Truth Society. It's over. Zero-ring witchcraft spiritual thorn. The zero-ring witchcraft engraved in the spiritual sea by Narain instantly hit Chenmu's spiritual sea, and the next moment another man also took action. Zero-ring witchcraft shadow touch. Several transparent tentacles suddenly emerged from the darkness, and the target was Chenmu's neck, but Chenmu's reaction was extremely fast, and the feeling of brain concussion only lasted for a moment before recovering. Recovered so quickly? How is it possible? Seeing the clarity in Chenmu's eyes, Wiener's heart was shocked, and the speed of the shadow tentacles instantly accelerated. Please read it. Thank you for the monthly ticket of boiled tomatoes. Love you. Chapter 42. Be careful. Please read on. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 42. Be careful. Please read it. It can be said that the plan of the Black Cloak Seeking Association is completely fine. The zero-ring witchcraft blessed by magic weapons, coupled with the tacit cooperation of Wiener and Nalen. If Chenmu was a peak knight at this time, he might have been seriously injured at this moment, and this is because his own spiritual attributes are higher than ordinary people. If Chenmu's mental attribute is only one, and his realm is only that of a formal knight, then he is probably a corpse at this time. But it is a pity that Chenmu is a great knight at this time, and he is also a great knight with much higher mental power than ordinary people. Therefore, although this zero-ring spiritual witchcraft hit Chenmu, he only recovered in an instant. Wiener's expression changed drastically when he saw that Chenmu had recovered from the mental sting so quickly and had easily broken off several shadow tentacles. You must know that shadow magic is not omnipotent. It also has disadvantages. That is, the blessed shadow magic will become invalid instantly when they use witchcraft, but this in itself is not a fatal drawback, because if they can kill Chenmu the moment they attack, it doesn't matter whether the shadow technique fails, but at this time, this drawback is somewhat fatal. The intelligence is wrong. Willie is not an official knight at all, but a real great knight. Bullshit. This was the only thought in Wiener and Nalen's minds at this time. At this time, they also realized what Cody felt back then. He took action confidently and discovered that their enemy was very different from what he had imagined. What kind of information did this old guy give me? Damn, the most important realm is wrong. Zero-ring witchcraft shadow ball. Zero-ring witchcraft spiritual hook. However, their reaction was not slow either. After all the hard work to become a wizard apprentice, they did not just do it in a daze now. Their reaction was not slow, but Chenmu's reaction was faster. Almost the moment he broke free from the shadow tentacles, Chenmu's whole body was wrapped in golden air. Night skill explosion. Night skill, charged strike. Chenmu used two knightly skills in an instant, and punched the two people in front of him quickly. Once he was on guard, Nalan's mental witchcraft could only make him dazed for a moment, without affecting his moves at all, avoiding the shadow ball. Chenmu hit Wiener's head with a heavy fist. With this punch, the air was hit with a huge sonic boom. How could Wiener, who was only a first-level wizard apprentice, be able to block this blow? His physical fitness was not even as good as that of a formal knight, so in just a moment, his head was beaten into paste by Chenmu. The fight between the three seemed to take a long time, but it actually happened in just a few seconds. Just when Niluan decided to fight to the death, suddenly, a loud noise came from the wall of Chenmu's room. Suddenly there was a big hole in the wall of the room. A person suddenly appeared in Chenmu's room. It was Earl Arthur. He almost heard the fighting in Chenmu's room and hurriedly broke through the wall. "It's okay, Willie." Earl Arthur glanced at Chenmu's room and saw Wiener lying on the ground with a head that didn't look like his head. His face was a little surprised, and his tone was mixed with worry. Chenmu shook his head. Seeing that Chenmu was fine, Earl Arthur's eyes moved to Niluan, his eyes as deep as lake water. "It's over." Niluan was completely desperate. He couldn't even deal with Chenmu. Coupled with the fact that Count Arthur is stronger than Chenmu, the possibility of him surviving is almost slim. "I won't kill you. Let's talk about all the plans of this black-clothed Taoist gathering." Under Nalan's desperate gaze, Earl Arthur spoke calmly. There was a glimmer of hope in Nalan's eyes. Outside the core area of the Far East Territory, in a dense forest, under the cover of darkness, 4 or 5 figures could be vaguely seen. "What's going on with Nalan and the others?" "It's been an hour and it's time to come back." One of the black figures spoke, with a hint of uneasiness in his tone. "Could there be an accident? Although they have shadow cloaks, they will still show their traces after activating witchcraft. Could it be that they were stopped by Arthur?" Another voice came out. Hearing this, the black shadow who spoke first frowned. "There is a possibility, but these secret guards behaved normally, not like the plan was successful." While speaking, the shadow's eyes moved to the distant Golden Lion family's secret guards. These secret guards were still patrolling the territory like robots. "Perhaps there is something delayed." Hearing this, the shadow fell silent. After a while, he spoke again. "We can't wait any longer, Cord. Sneak into the manor and see if Willie is dead." Cord's face darkened when he was called. "Levon, what's the difference between this and asking me to die?" Cord's tone was full of dissatisfaction. "He doesn't have a shadow cloak. What's the difference between sneaking into the core area of the Golden Lion family without permission and dying, not to mention whether we can find out whether Wei Li is dead or not? Whether we can sneak into the place where Wei Li lives is another question. This old guy." Cord felt a little resentful. Levon was stunned for a moment, realizing that he just said nonsense. "Then just wait," Levon said, sighing in his heart. This time, he paid a heavy price to persuade other members of the Black Seeking Society to carry out the action against the Golden Lion family. It was obviously irrational to anger the others present again. But anyone whose son was killed would probably not be irrational. Suddenly, Levon found that there seemed to be a glimmer of light in the distance. His expression showed a hint of joy, thinking that Wiener and Narain had returned, but the next moment, his expression changed drastically. "Be careful." With a cry of surprise, Levon didn't even bother to hide his tracks. The 4 people around him also heard Levon's cry. Although they didn't know what happened, their bodies subconsciously dodged to the side. Under the cover of darkness, an arrow flew at a high speed, and the target was the wizard apprentice present. The arrow whizzed past and turned into a deadly blade under the cover of darkness. Levon instinctively dodged, but the arrow was not aimed at him. Swish! This was the sound of the arrow piercing the body. Although Lewin shouted and reminded everyone, only he and Code reacted instantly. One of the people who didn't react in time had his heart pierced by an extremely sharp arrow. His eyes widened, as if he didn't expect that he would die like this. "Damn it!" A chill rose in Lewin's heart. At this time, even if he was stupid, he knew that their position was exposed, and the reason why they were exposed was most likely due to Wiener and Narain. After all, only these 2 people knew their position. As for the person who shot the cold arrow in secret, it was obvious that it was someone from the Golden Lion family. The plan may have failed. Lewin inevitably had such an idea in his mind. He was enveloped by resentment and anger. Another sharp arrow came. Unlike before, if the first sharp arrow was for concealment, then this second sharp arrow had no intention of concealment at all. Under the cover of darkness, this arrow flashed with dazzling golden light. Please read, it is so important to read the new book period. Chapter 43, A Battle of Wits and Courage with the Air, please read on. You are listening at NovelFold.audio. Chapter 43, Fighting Wits and Courage with the Air, please read later, too fast. The arrow that came out of the dark was too fast. And the target of this arrow was Lawan, who had just stabilized his body. Zero-ring magic shadow barrier. The light black semicircular light shield instantly enveloped Lawan's body, but at the moment when the arrow hit, this zero-ring magic he hastily launched seemed so fragile, the golden arrow and the shadow barrier only collided, and the barrier exploded into light spots all over the sky. Although Lawan had tried his best to dodge, the sweater on his shoulder was still torn open, bringing out a string of blood beads. Find out the person who shot the cold arrow in the dark, Lawan said in shock and anger. In fact, even if Lawan didn't speak, the people in the black clothes seeking Dao association present at this time had already reacted, the panic dissipated, and their hearts were filled with anger at this time. They are wizards. They were actually treated as prey. This was unacceptable to them, and the one who shot these two arrows from the dark was Chenmu. Chenmu's eyes were calm at this time. He gently put the longbow in his hand on the ground and drew the lion heart sword hanging on his waist. At the same time, the Golden Lion family's secret guards who were patrolling the surrounding area rushed here instantly. There was a bang in the sky, and the red flare dyed this small piece of sky red. Good luck, Chenmu said to himself. His luck was indeed good. He actually ran into the three places given by Narain where people from the black clothes seeking the Tao Society might meet him. Over there, Lawan spoke, and the people around him were not stupid. They were not blind, so how could they not see such a big flare? But the next moment, Lawan was extremely angry. The person who shot the cold arrows in the dark was found, but his colleagues all ran away. That's right, they all ran away. The kind who turned around and ran away. The people from the black clothes seeking the Tao Society present were not fools, but they were smarter than anyone else. The person who shot the arrows in secret was found, but judging from the arrows shot, the person hiding in the dark was clearly a great knight. And there was only one person in the Golden Lion family who had golden aura and the cultivation of a great knight, and that was Arthur, the Earl of the Golden Lion. Although they were angry, they also knew one thing, that is, fighting with Arthur to death in the Golden Lion family was to seek death. Others did not know, but the people of the black clothes seeking Dao Society knew that Arthur was not as simple as an ordinary great knight, and there were a group of dark guards surrounding them. Now the signal flare sounded again. Who knew if the two mad dogs under Arthur would come too? For first-level wizard apprentices against three experienced great knights. It can only be said that there was no chance of winning, so their first choice was to abandon Lawan and run away directly. After all, life was the most important. Chenmu laughed in the distance. He had a very strong vision and naturally saw this scene. He did not expect that a dignified wizard apprentice would choose to run away directly after facing two cold arrows shot by him. However, if Chenmu knew that the reason these wizard apprentices ran away was because they thought he was their father, he would probably be even more amused. A wonderful misunderstanding. The people of the Black Seeking Society believed that Arthur must be the one who shot the cold arrow in the dark, so they made this unwise choice. In fact, if they rushed forward, Chenmu would have a hard time dealing with it, but running away? It's definitely not wise. Run. Can you run away? Looking at the direction these people ran, Chenmu sneered in his heart. But why didn't one of them run away? Could it be a second-level wizard apprentice? Looking at Lawan who stood still, Chenmu's heart became heavy. He did not choose to take the initiative to attack, and at this time Chenmu also knew that his position must have been exposed. Delaying time is Chenmu's current plan, but he was also a little confused. If it was a second-level wizard apprentice, why was he shot by an arrow? Chenmu noticed that Lawan was shattered by his arrow just now. However, Chenmu still did not act rashly in order to be safe. The secret guards approached here quickly, and Chenmu stared at Lawan in the distance with a calm face. The situation at the scene at this time made Lawan standing there very embarrassed. Not only did Chenmu not expect the Black Seeking Dao Society to escape, but even Lawan, The leader of the Black-Seeking Dao Society did not expect this scene at the moment. He fell into an awkward situation. Go to Chenmu, who was hiding in the dark for close combat. He was just a wizard apprentice, and he didn't have the ability to fight a man he thought was a peak knight, or run away now. Is it too late? If you run now, you will be cowardly. If you run away, you will definitely face the fierce attack of Arthur, who is hiding in the dark, or delay time. But delaying time is meaningless to him. The person who sent the signal flare was a member of the Golden Lion family, not him. What can delay time do? Wait for death. So the next moment, he made a move that was not so meaningful. Zero-ring witchcraft spiritual pressure. A strong momentum exploded around Lawan, and even the sound of the wind was caused to tremble. The black robe wrapped around Lewandowski's sweater fluttered, making a loud noise. Mental coercion is a special existence in zero-ring witchcraft. It does not have such a strong attack power, but it can allow mental power to affect reality. To put it bluntly, it was a scary move. That's right, he wanted to scare Arthur away in the dark. Is this move useful? There is no doubt that it is useful, and it successfully made Chenmu, who was hiding in the dark, more solemn. What a strong momentum. He is definitely not an ordinary first-level wizard apprentice. Sure enough, he dared to stay alone because he had something to rely on. Seeing this scene, Chenmu said to himself in his heart, his eyes full of solemnity. Chenmu was full of vigilance, holding the lion heart sword tightly in his hand, guarding against Lawan's every move. It's not that he didn't want to use the bow and arrow to test, but he had already exposed his position. Using the bow and arrow at this time would do more harm than good, but what Chenmu didn't know was that he was fighting wits and courage with the air at this time. The next moment, there was a hint of doubt in Chenmu's eyes. Why is there no movement again? Is he planning to wait for us to gather together and then catch us all in one fell swoop? Or is he accumulating some big moves? Are you so confident? Looking at Lewand, who was motionless in the same place, Chenmu's thoughts were entangled in his heart. If he is really so strong, how did he survive as a formal knight in the simulation? The next moment, seeing Lewand, who was surrounded by hundreds of dark guards but still motionless, Chenmu's heart became even heavier. It was really that Lewand was too calm, which made him a little confused. Surrounded by hundreds of dark guards, he could still stay motionless. I can't wait any longer, Chenmu said in his heart, and he decided to test it. After all, if he is really accumulating some large-scale witchcraft, it is meaningless to simply wait. PS1, please read it. Babies, reading it is so important. PS2, thank you 447257 and the Big Devil Shao Su brother for the monthly tickets. Love you. Please read it. The update requirements for investment are coming soon. Everyone can invest in Chidian coins. Chapter 44 Red Moon Cross / and Double Blade / please read later. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 44 Red Moon Cross / and Double Blade / please read later. At the same time, on the other side, deep in the thorny jungle, 3 black shadows rushed in the jungle, looking behind them from time to time. After finding that there was no movement, the 3 people gradually slowed down. The plan must have failed. Arthur even knows where we are hiding. Maybe Wiener and Narain have betrayed the organization. Damn it. The reward promised to me by old man Lawan has not been paid yet. One of them spoke with an ugly face, his tone full of anger and unwillingness. Don't even think about the reward. It's a problem whether Lawan can survive. I told him a long time ago that the Golden Lion family is not so easy to deal with. He just didn't listen. He deserves to die. Another voice came out, with a complicated tone. Humph, it's better to die. How can a waste who has practiced meditation for a lifetime and is also a first-level wizard apprentice be qualified to lead the Black Clothes Seeking Association? It's just right to help us drag Arthur. Speaking of this, the man turned his head with a little palpitation. After finding that no one was chasing them, they breathed a sigh of relief. Let's go, it's not safe here either. Leave here as soon as possible. If nothing goes wrong, we can leave the Far East Territory tomorrow. After this voice fell, the 3 of them sped up again. If nothing goes wrong, it will naturally be an accident. The next moment, something strange happened. You may not be able to leave. In the dark night, an extremely subtle voice came out, "Night skill, shocking waves." A flash of blue light passed by, and a head flew up. The sound of blood spraying was clearly audible in the dark night. "There is an ambush." The remaining two people reacted very quickly, almost reacting the moment the blue light came on. Zero ring witchcraft shadow ball. Zero ring witchcraft shadow hand. The two witchcrafts swept towards the dark place that had just launched the attack, one after the other, almost in an instant. After cutting off a head, did not hide his intention. The knight's sword in his hand swung, and the azure airflow burst around him. Without any resistance to the witchcraft, took on two spells and slashed at the two people in front of him with the knight's sword in his hand. The witchcraft collided with M's body with a loud noise. The two wizard apprentices who cast the witchcraft showed ecstasy in their eyes. They didn't expect that there would be a fool who dared to use his body to resist the witchcraft, but what they didn't see was the sneer and ridicule on M's face. M's sword didn't cut at them, because the fatal blow against them was not M's desperate fight with their witchcraft, but it came from behind them. Night skill red moon cross slash. The red light illuminated the thorny jungle. This blow was fatal. M's desperate momentum and the word die made them not guard their backs at all, so when they felt the strong wind behind them, it was too late. They couldn't launch the witchcraft they engraved in their spiritual sea in this moment. There is no doubt that they turned into minced meat on the ground. However, William, who launched this attack, did not have any joy or anything like that, and did not even look at the minced meat on the ground. Instead, he frowned and said, "In fact, there is no need to do this. Even if they face the enemy head-on, they still have no ability to resist. This is too risky." While speaking, William approached M and supported him. The power of wizards' witchcraft is amazing, and the same is true for wizard apprentices. Normally, even a great knight would not use his body to resist witchcraft. This was not what they discussed before, but William said he was used to it. Sure enough, the next moment M said indifferently, "Isn't this the fastest? What's more, I'm not injured." M secretly swallowed a mouthful of blood, his face full of indifference. Seeing this scene, William shook his head helplessly. "The blood in your nose is about to overflow, and you are not injured yet." But William did not expose M. He knew that his friend was very stubborn. On the other side, Chenmu was in a weird mood at this time. Yes, it was weird, because after probing, he found that this wizard apprentice seemed different from what he imagined, not stronger than he imagined, nor was he accumulating any large-scale witchcraft. On the contrary, he seemed very weak. Can this be a second-level wizard apprentice? How could a second-level wizard apprentice be so weak? Another armor-breaking slash was slashed by Chenmu, and Lawan dodged it in a somewhat embarrassed manner. At this time, Lawan's face was extremely ugly. He felt that he was fooled, and he was sure that the person in front of him was not Arthur at all, and this person who was not Arthur was not unfamiliar to him. It was the person they tried every means to kill this time, Willie Weasley. Willie is actually a great knight. How is this possible? Lawan felt that his experiences over the past few decades were overturned. The moment Willie showed his trace and attacked him, Lawan felt that this world seemed to be different from the world he was familiar with. There was a reason for Wiener and Narain's failure. It would be strange if they could succeed in sneak attacking a well-prepared great knight. Zero ring witchcraft hand of shadow. After dodging Lewandowski's spell again, Chenmu was certain in his heart. It was confirmed that the wizard apprentice in front of him was not pretending to be weak, but was really weak. "So, I fought wits and courage with the air for a long time." Chenmu, who had figured it out, was a little confused. "No, you, a first-level wizard apprentice, don't run with your accomplices, and stay where you are, pretending to be invincible. Now there are hundreds of dark guards surrounding you, plus he is a great knight, you probably can't run away even if you want to, and the flares that Chenmu just sent out are not for show. Earl Arthur is expected to arrive soon. What do you think you are doing? Are you going to die?" Chenmu was actually a little ashamed and angry in his heart, and he was actually fooled by the two lives. Of course, it was just a little bit. After all, the wizard apprentice in front of him pretended too much, making Chenmu really think he was a big shot. The next moment, Chenmu let go of his hands and feet, and at the same time signaled the surrounding dark guards to come together. It was Chenmu's instruction that these dark guards only surrounded Lawan before and did not go up after. Chenmu didn't know the depth of this wizard apprentice before, so he naturally wouldn't let a group of dark guards who were only quasi-knights go to die. Now he knows that this wizard apprentice is just pretending to be strong, not really strong, so he naturally has no worries. Knight skill burst. Knight skill //. The golden airflow burst around Chenmu, and finally wrapped around his hands and the lion heart sword. Lawan couldn't stop this attack. A ray of golden light flashed, and this golden light was extremely dazzling in the dark night. At the same time, this golden light also brought a string of blood beads. Please read. Chapter 45, The whole army was annihilated. Please read on. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 45, The whole army was wiped out. Please follow up. Lawan's eyes suddenly became a little dazed, his throat was slit, and he felt as if wind was entering his mouth from his throat. He could feel the blood pouring out. He knew that he had no hope of survival at this time. Before he died, many things seemed to appear in front of his eyes, like curtains of light passing by one after another. Taiwan Novel Networked. Decades ago, he resolutely set foot on the ship to the Wizarding Continent with his companions. What was his original intention at that time? Maybe it's just the youthful spirit, and now what about his companions? Some seemed to stay in the Wizarding Continent forever, while some also died on the subcontinent. It seemed that among the group that went to the Wizarding Continent, he was the only one left alive. Now, am I going to die too? Luwen's mind was filled with messy thoughts, and in the end, only this one thought filled his mind. Finally, he closed his eyes seemingly unwillingly. He did not die in silence, on the contrary, dying at the hands of the 18-year-old great knight Chenmu might also be a good destination. He had never heard of anyone becoming a grand knight at the age of 18. But he hasn't had enough of this world yet. The next moment, the knight swords of countless secret guards instantly penetrated Luwen's body. Lewandowski fell to the ground and could not stand up again, looking at Laiwan who fell to the ground. Chenmu's eyes were full of calm. Laiwan can be regarded as the third wizard apprentice that Chenmu killed on the battlefield after he came to this world, but Chenmu knew that Laiwan would not be the last one. There was no other emotion in his heart. On the contrary, Chenmu's mood was as calm as a deep lake at this time. This world is like this. The rule of the jungle is almost universal. Nobles should be nobler than commoners, and wizards should be superior to others. Chenmu did not have the ability to overturn the class concept that enveloped everyone, and he did not want to overturn it. If he was not a great knight today, but an ordinary formal knight, then it is very likely that he would be the one who falls to the ground now and will never rise again. Father. Looking at Arthur who was approaching here with great pressure, Chenmu bowed slightly and spoke. Earl Arthur had actually arrived a long time ago, but he saw the battle between Chenmu and Laiwan and did not intervene. Well, very good. Earl Arthur spoke softly, with a trace of overflowing satisfaction in his tone. The next moment, Earl Arthur spoke again. William and M have already ambushed deep in the Thorn jungle, which is where the 3 locations must pass before leaving the Far East territory. Now they may have succeeded. Hearing what Count Arthur said, Chenmu nodded. He naturally knew this. After all, Earl Arthur's instructions to William and M just now were not hidden from him. Sure enough, not long after Earl Arthur said these words, Chenmu saw 2 people walking out of the thorny jungle shrouded in darkness. It's William and M. William was holding 2 heads in his hand, and together with the one in M's hand, they happened to be the 3 people who escaped. Seeing this scene, Chenmu finally breathed his last breath of relief. The 3 people stopped by William and M, plus the 2 people killed by Chenmu, and the 2 people who secretly attacked Chenmu and were killed in reverse. At this point, the 7 wizard apprentices who entered the core area of the Far East territory from the Black Seeking Association were all wiped out. The losses of the Golden Lion family were almost 0. Except for M's injuries, no one from the Golden Lion family or even the secret guards died. A total of 7 wizard apprentices did not cause any damage to the Golden Lion family, which seemed to be in some decline, and this is based on the premise that the head of the Golden Lion family, Earl Arthur, has not taken any action. But Chenmu knew in his heart that this was not because of how powerful the Golden Lion family was. The Golden Lion family is indeed very strong, but the biggest reason is that the Black-Clothed Seeking Club is too weak. It's so weak that it doesn't seem worthy of being called a wizard organization. you must know that in any wizard continent, the weakest and weakest wizard organization must at least have a third-level wizard apprentice, otherwise it will be destroyed at any time, and a third-level wizard apprentice can easily destroy the entire Golden Lion family. But this black-clothed Taoist association seems to not even have a second-level wizard apprentice. The person who was most likely to become a second-level wizard apprentice was also killed by William and Chenmu while they were in Far East City. Therefore, although this battle was a great victory, Chenmu still had no idea of despising the wizard in his heart. Instead, his desire to become a wizard intensified. Master, Master, all 3 wizard apprentices who have passed through the Thorn jungle will be beheaded. William and M approached where Arthur and Chenmu were, glanced at Levon on the ground, and spoke softly. Arthur nodded and his eyes stayed on the heads held by William and M for a few seconds. Let the secret guards handle the corpses of these wizard apprentices. Burn them with fire and then scatter them. Earl Arthur spoke calmly. William and M handed the heads in their hands to the secret guards, and then indicated that the bodies of these wizard apprentices were deep in the jungle. The secret guards began to take action, but only Chenmu and 4 others were left standing. Let's go back to the manor first. Don't let your guard down these days. Who knows if the Black Seekers will have any tricks up their sleeves. Earl Arthur also knew that the Black Seekers would most likely not have any tricks up their sleeves, but he still gave a warning. The 3 nodded and left one after another. On the way back to the manor, Chenmu gently stretched out his hand and rubbed his brow. Am I forced to stay up late today? Not in a good mood. Chenmu rarely made a joke in his heart, but he wasn't tired at all. The night could still be energetic even if he didn't sleep for 3 days and 3 nights. It's just that Chenmu has the habit of going to bed on time every day, so he was a little uncomfortable. Of course, if you become a wizard apprentice, you don't have to consider the problem of sleeping, because wizard apprentices can use meditation instead of sleep. But after returning to his room in the manor, Chenmu felt no sleepiness for the first time. It's fixed so quickly. Chenmu was a little surprised. Entering the room, he subconsciously glanced at the wall that was knocked open by his father Arthur. The wall that should have had a big hole has now been restored to its original state. Of course, if you look closely, you can still see some differences. Lighting the oil lamp, lying on the bed, Chenmu picked up the Kingdom Strange Stories beside him. There is not much entertainment in this world, and books like novels are already a good way to pass the time. Shot at the sound of turning pages is unusually clear in this quiet room. At this moment, Chenmu seemed to have returned to the time when he stayed up late in bed reading online novels in his previous life. P.S. Thank you Dun Minxiang and Lala for the monthly tickets. Love you. If you have the conditions, please give a reward of $1 to occupy the book friends list. The list is too deserted now. Please read. Please give a reward to occupy the list. Chapter 46. Bauhinia Flowers and the Traveling Kingdom. Please read on. You are listening at NovelFold.audio. Chapter 46. Redbud Thorn Flower and Traveling the Kingdom. Please read it. In an unknown deep mountain, in a castle, in front of the huge round table, only 4 of the countless seats were occupied, and the faces of these 4 people were undoubtedly very ugly. Levon. A sound almost like gnashing of teeth came from the mouth of a person in front of the round table. These 4 people were the only ones who did not agree with Levon's actions. In the vote initiated by Lewandowski, the 4 of them voted against it, but now, there are only 4 of them left in the black-clothed Taoist Seeking Association. They didn't hate the Golden Lion family, but their hatred for Levon couldn't stop overflowing. Don't you know what level you are at? Dare to deal with the Golden Lion family with just a casual plan? If the Golden Lion family is really so easy to deal with, how could the Black-Clothed Seeking Association not make any big moves for decades? Well now, the organization originally had only a few wizard apprentices, but now it has shrunk by 2/3. It's too late to say anything now. Even if you hate Levon again, it won't help. He is already dead. Another voice came out. Compared to the person who spoke before, this person's tone was much calmer, but his face was also very ugly. A good death. Even if he doesn't die, I will kill him myself. He is overestimating his ability. He also lost the organization's magic weapon. The man's tone was full of madness. That is a magic weapon. One magic weapon was more than enough to buy the lives of several of them, but now it was lost by that idiot Levon. Okay, it's useless to talk anymore. From now on, give up all actions against the Golden Lion family. Suddenly, a decisive voice came out. The owner of this voice is none other than Mullen. On the other side, the core area of the Golden Lion family, the rest of the month passed quickly, and nothing special happened this month. The imagined backup man from the Black-clad Seeking Society did not appear, so Chenmu had also moved back to his own small manor. Chenmu's life has returned to its former peace. Chenmu didn't improve his breathing skills, so he focused on mastering the knight skills. His body had indeed reached the limit of a knight, but Chenmu found that his talent in knight skills was not weak. "William, why are you here?" Returning to the manor from the training ground, Chenmu found William standing in the manor, seemingly waiting for him, so he said with some surprise. He hadn't seen William for a month. Since Chenmu became the Grand Knight, he naturally no longer needs William's protection, and William is also responsible for part of the Golden Lion family's industry, so naturally he cannot be as leisurely as Chenmu. "Master, this year's hunting day is coming soon. I asked you to ask if you are interested." Seeing Chenmu return, William spoke. "Hunting day?" Chenmu was stunned. There were so many things going on during this period that he had forgotten about this. Calculating carefully, it seems that the annual hunting day is indeed about to begin, but if he was still somewhat interested in the first hunting day, he was completely indifferent to this second hunting day, so Chenmu pretended to think about it and thought about it. Then he said, "Please help me tell my father that I will not go on this hunting day." William was not surprised when he heard Chenmu's words. Chenmu was now a great knight, so naturally he couldn't be interested in a child's playful hunting day. What's more, the Golden Lion family's absence from the hunting day was not once or twice, so Chenmu's absence would not have much impact. So he nodded, and then continued. "The master also knows that there is a high probability that you will not participate in this hunting day, so the master asked you to go to him. Maybe he has something to tell you." "My father is looking for me." "Okay, I understand." After hearing William's words, Chenmu subconsciously replied. Chenmu didn't know what Earl Arthur wanted to do with him, but Chenmu guessed that it was most likely related to the family's industry. After all, now that the threat from the Black Seeking Society is gone, Count Arthur should feel relieved to let Chenmu go out alone to take charge of the family's industry. This can also be seen from several previous simulations. However, Chenmu will not understand the details until he actually meets Earl Arthur. Just guessing is meaningless. With the words brought to him, William chatted with Chenmu for a few more words and then left. Chenmu returned to the small manor, took off his armor and put on his pullover. Then Chenmu went to take a bath in the family bath first. After all, he had just returned from the training ground and his body was a little sticky. After taking a bath, Chenmu put on a pair of brand new clothes and walked towards the Golden Lion Manor. Earl Arthur has been staying at the Golden Lion Manor in the core area of the Golden Lion family for the past few days and rarely leaves there. This is also to prevent the people from the Black-Clothed Seeking Association from having any backups. Fortunately, the people of the Black-Clothed Seeking Taoist Association were sensible, and after this defeat, they did not provoke the Golden Lion family again. Arriving at the Golden Lion Manor, Chenmu immediately saw Earl Arthur in the courtyard. Earl Arthur was watering several potted plants in the yard at this time. "What kind of flower is this? I remember that there didn't seem to be these potted plants here a month ago." Approaching Earl Arthur, Chenmu looked at the purple flowers in the potted plant and spoke curiously. He was sure that this place was very empty before, and there were no potted plants. And when did his father, Earl Arthur, develop a hobby of watering flowers? Viral is here. This is the Bauhinia flower, one of the main ingredients of the Golden Lion's secret medicine. This flower only blooms in this month. I moved a few plants from the herb garden. I watered them when I have nothing to do. Seeing Chenmu coming, Arthur smiled and spoke. What Chenmu didn't know was that his father, Earl Arthur, was once a master gardener, but since his mother passed away, Earl Arthur has rarely been interested in flowers. However, he has recently become a great knight, and some of the shackles in Earl Arthur's heart seem to have faded. "Have you met William?" "Yes, William said that you have something to do with me, father." "Yes, now the threat from the Black Seeking Society is minimal, and you don't have to stay in the manor all the time. You can go out for a walk." Hearing his father's words, Chenmu looked up at Earl Arthur. He knew that his father was going to tell him something. Sure enough, the next moment, Earl Arthur smiled and said, "Villi, do you know the Kingdom of Winter?" Hearing this, Chenmu shook his head. Although he had a lot of memories about the kingdom, this certainly could not be said to be an understanding of the entire Kingdom of Winter. "If I let you travel around the entire kingdom, would you be interested?" Travel around the kingdom? Chenmu was shocked. This was a little different from his previous simulations. Chenmu was not unfamiliar with traveling around the kingdom. In his memory, his brother Nicholas traveled around the kingdom, but traveling around the kingdom is not a small matter. In the Kingdom of Winter, many descendants of large families would choose to travel around the entire kingdom within a few years after adulthood, but now. Is it too early? Seeking follow-up reading. Chapter 47. When will we set off? Please read on. You are listening at NovelFull.audio. Chapter 47. When do we set off? Seeking follow-up reading. Is it too early? Chenmu said softly. He was not resisting to travel the kingdom, nor was he afraid. Chenmu, who was already a great knight, was confident that there were few people in the kingdom who could threaten him. How many great knights were there in the entire Winter Kingdom? He felt it was early because in the Winter Kingdom, the descendants of large families generally chose to travel the kingdom after they came of age. The adult age in the Winter Kingdom was 20 years old, and now Chenmu is only 18 years old. You mean you are too young? Don't you think about what others were doing when they were 18? They are not comparable to you. Do you think everyone is like you, and they are already great knights at the age of 18? Earl Arthur naturally knew what Chenmu was thinking, so he spoke with a smile. Now Chenmu is an unpolished jade in his heart. Although Chenmu is already a great knight, Arthur still thinks that Chenmu is a rough diamond, because in his heart, Chenmu's future is far more than a great knight, an 18-year-old great knight. What a knight talent! The realm of epic knight may be a difficult gap for all knights in the world, but for those true geniuses, this gap is a barrier that can be easily broken. Earl Arthur thinks that Chenmu is that kind of genius, and he does not think that Chenmu cannot become an epic knight. However, if Chenmu knew his thoughts, Chenmu might be a little embarrassed. After all, he knows his own affairs, and he is a million miles away from being a genius. If you have to say it, he is at most an ordinary person. With talent, in fact, Earl Arthur wants Chenmu to travel the kingdom for his own selfish reasons. If Chenmu is just a formal knight, he will not agree. Even if Chenmu himself proposes to travel the kingdom, he will let Chenmu take charge of some of the family's industries first, and put the matter of traveling the kingdom after Chenmu comes of age. But now Chenmu is already a great knight. He thinks that there are few people in the kingdom who can threaten Chenmu, so he has this idea. Of course, there is another reason. That is, he knows the situation of his eldest son Nicholas, and he understands that everything in the family may eventually be handed over to Chenmu, but if you want to inherit the title and the family, traveling around the kingdom is inevitable, because if a person doesn't even understand the kingdom he lives in, how can he really manage the entire family? Earl Arthur just wants to advance this time. Although Chenmu doesn't understand everything Earl Arthur thinks, he knows that his father wants him to travel around the kingdom, so now he faces two choices. Go, or not. Looking at Earl Arthur's expectant eyes, Chenmu thought slightly in his heart. Traveling around the kingdom has its own advantages, and staying in the manor naturally has its own advantages. Traveling around the kingdom can broaden his horizons and truly understand this world. After all, after coming to this world, Chenmu spent most of his time in the Far East territory of the Golden Lion family. But it would be safe to stay in the manor, because his father, Earl Arthur, didn't know, but he knew. He had a cheat. Now there is no threat from the Black Seeking Society, and a simulation once a month may allow him to truly peek into the mysterious wizard's path. After thinking for a while, Chenmu finally nodded. When will you leave? This month. Hearing Chenmu's words, Earl Arthur spoke decisively. Chenmu finally chose to travel to the kingdom, because he found that he seemed to have fallen into a thinking error. It's true that you can simulate in the manor, but you can also travel to the kingdom. The simulator is not bound to this place, and you can't simulate if you are not here. If the simulator is really bound to a place, then Chenmu will naturally not be invincible and will not leave the mountain. However, his simulator can be used anywhere, and traveling to the kingdom does not affect his simulated life at all. Another reason is that he will have to travel to the kingdom sooner or later, because he is now a great knight. his father Earl Arthur will not agree to let him stay in the manor all the time, since you can kill two birds with one stone, why not do it? After he made his choice, Arthur began to tell Chenmu some things to pay attention to when traveling in the kingdom. Chenmu listened very seriously. He knew that these things were the experience of his father when he traveled in the kingdom. As time passed, Earl Arthur said a lot, and Chenmu listened silently. That's probably all you need to pay attention to. Of course, these are just experiences. When you really travel in the kingdom, you can only rely on yourself. Earl Arthur said this very solemnly, and his expression was very serious. I understand, Chenmu said softly, what he said to William at the beginning, eaglets who have always lived under the protection of eagles can never become eagles has now come true. This time, there is no guard on the trip to the kingdom, and Chenmu can only rely on himself, but Chenmu didn't have any other emotions. If he had to say it, he might be looking forward to this trip to the kingdom. Okay, you go back first, I will prepare something for you in the next few days. Earl Arthur spoke, his serious expression disappearing and turning into a look of relaxation. Chenmu nodded and said goodbye to Earl Arthur and left the Golden Lion Manor. Seeing Chenmu leave, Earl Arthur picked up the kettle again and started watering the flowers. This means that Earl Arthur is in a very good mood at this time. While watering the flowers, Arthur was also thinking about what to prepare for his son. Naturally, you can't just travel around the kingdom without bringing anything with you. Some preparation is necessary, and some things are essential. You don't need to bring unimportant things, but there is one thing you must bring, that is money, or gold coins. The currency of Winter Kingdom can be divided into copper coins, silver coins and gold coins. 1 silver coin is equivalent to 10 copper coins, and 1 gold coin is equivalent to 10 silver coins. There is another special existence on this, and that is the golden scroll. Gold rolls have denominations. For example, a gold roll of 100 denominations can be exchanged for 100 gold coins at any bank in the kingdom. Compared with gold coins, gold coupons are more convenient to carry, and gold coupons are issued by the Winter Royal family and are recognized by all banks in the Natural Kingdom. How much are you ready for? How about preparing 200,000 first? Arthur, who was watering the flowers, thought for a moment. On the other side, Chenmu, who left the Golden Lion Manor, was also thinking about it. I wonder if these 2 simulations accumulated in the past 2 months can allow me to get in touch with the path of the wizard. P.S. Thank you all for reading, and thank you for your monthly votes for Juliujisha. Thanks to Dan Minxiang for the 100-point reward, thank you very much. Please read. Chapter 50, Simulating a Level 1 Wizard Apprentice Again, please read. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 50 Resimulation and First Level Wizard Apprentice, seeking further reading. The next moment, dense black characters appeared in front of Chenmu. Life simulation has been started. Because the simulator version is too low, only text simulation is supported. 18 years old, the people of the Black Seeking Association launched a plan against the Golden Lion family, but the entire army was wiped out. Your father wanted you to travel around the kingdom, but you did not refuse. In the same year, you began to travel around the kingdom. 19 years old, traveling around the kingdom. While traveling around the kingdom, do not forget to practice meditation day after day. 20 years old, traveling around the kingdom and practicing meditation. 21 years old, traveling to the royal city, you met your brother and practiced meditation. 22 years old, you have returned from traveling in the kingdom. You have benefited a lot from what you have seen along the way. Your father asked you to take charge of some of the family's properties. You did not refuse. As a person behind the scenes, you began to take charge of the family's properties, so you have sufficient resources. Time to practice meditation. 26 years old, the family business is flourishing under your leadership behind the scenes. Of course, you still practice meditation day after day. Although the speed is extremely slow, you have developed a habit. 28 years old, your brother came back from the royal city and told you some secrets. In the same year, your father, Earl Arthur, retired behind the scenes and passed the title of Earl to you. You became the youngest Earl in the kingdom, attracting the attention of the kingdom. Countless families looked sideways. Changes have occurred. Seeing this, Chenmu thought to himself. Usually, his brother Nicholas inherited the title of Earl first, but this time he directly inherited the title of Earl at the age of 28. However, after many simulations, there are now very few simulations that can arouse Chenmu's emotions, so Chenmu continued to read. 29 years old, after inheriting the title of Earl, you began to reorganize the family's industry, integrate it and hand it over to people you trust, while you stayed behind the scenes. 30 years old, you married a princess from a big family. From the secret report sent back by the intelligence organization, you discovered that someone in the kingdom was brewing a lord war, so you began to make early preparations. 31 years old, practice meditation. In the same year, your first son was born. 32 years old, continue to practice meditation. More than 10 years of meditation practice have made your spiritual world a lot bigger, but you are still not far from the standard of a first-level wizard apprentice. 33 years old, because of your delegation of authority, as a lord, you are not busy. Your time to practice meditation takes up the most time in a day. 35 years old, Grand Duke Goshawk has launched a war of lords. Based on the information sent back by the intelligence organization, you decided to let the Golden Lion family join Grand Duke Goshawk's camp. The Archduke Goshawk was extremely well prepared for this Lord War, and the war soon swept through half of the kingdom. In this Lord War, the Golden Lion family under your rule performed extremely well, and countless families in the entire kingdom truly recognized you, the youngest earl in the kingdom. 37 years old, you were awarded the title of Marquis by the kingdom, and your territory was expanded. You became the youngest Marquis in the kingdom. 38 years old, 2 years after the war, the Golden Lion family lowered its profile again at your request. You are still practicing meditation day after day. 40 years old, the practice of meditation has improved too slowly, and you are a little dissatisfied. Coupled with the expansion of rights, your ambition cannot be restrained. 42 years old, you used family resources to go to the royal city in exchange for a few bottles of magic potion. After taking it, you found that the effect was not good. 44 years old, you tried to use magic stones to assist in meditation practice, but it still didn't work, because if you want to use magic stones, you need to become at least a first-level wizard apprentice. 46 years old, your father has broken through to the realm of epic knights. You hand over the territory to your father, Earl Arthur, and prepare to travel the kingdom again. 48 years old, you came to the royal city again. This time you visited the Wizards Mutual Aid Association in the royal city, hoping that they could teach you some witchcraft, but you were rejected because witchcraft has its own school and inheritance and cannot be taught at will. You show understanding and leave. 51 years old, returning to the Golden Lion family. Although you have poor knight talent, your son has excellent knight talent. At the age of 20, he is already at the peak of a formal knight and is a true genius. 53 years old, your son begins to travel around the kingdom, but you still practice meditation most of the time every day. 55 years old, practice meditation. 56 years old, your son returns from traveling in the kingdom, and you practice meditation. 58 years old, you pass the title of Marquis to your son, and you completely secluded yourself behind the scenes to practice meditation. 60 years old, live in seclusion and practice breathing techniques. In the same year, your grandson was born. The little guy is very cute and you like him very much, so you often take him with you. 65 years old, by practicing meditation, you finally feel the barrier of a first-level wizard apprentice. 66 years old, breaking the barrier, you successfully became a first-level wizard apprentice. Your spiritual sea suddenly expanded and your mental power skyrocketed. 70 years old, after becoming a first-level wizard apprentice, you started to ask your son to help you pay attention to witchcraft. In the past few years, your son has also helped you find several witchcrafts, but they are all very useless zero-ring witchcrafts. You didn't dislike it either, it was all engraved in the spiritual sea. 80 years old, your son successfully broke through the epic knight and became the youngest epic knight in the kingdom. The power of the Golden Lion family has reached its peak. 82 years old, the Lord War broke out. Under the command of your son, the Golden Lion family broke out and showed its fangs. Almost all the families in the entire kingdom prostrated themselves at the feet of the Golden Lion family. 83 years old, the Golden Lion family became the Duke family. You don't care about these. You still practice meditation every day. Decades of meditation practice have already made you a habit. 90 years old, your great-grandson was born. In the same year, your grandson inherited the title of Duke. Your son also lived in seclusion behind the scenes. 100 years old, the Golden Lion family became the first family in the kingdom and played an important role in the kingdom parliament. 120 years old, there are some hidden sequelae of taking magic potions in the early years, but most of them have been eliminated by you, but some still remain. 130 years old, the body begins to age. 138 years old, the body reaches its limit, you die, and you die. The simulation ends, please choose your reward. Retain realm, or retain magic. Really alive, Chenmu sighed in his heart. This simulation was the longest he had lived. He lived to 138 years old, and finally died of old age, and in this simulation, he practiced meditation for decades, and finally succeeded in becoming a real wizard apprentice. Level 1 Wizard Apprentice. Chenmu finally took a step on the mysterious wizard path. If Chenmu were to give him an evaluation of this simulation, then Chenmu's evaluation would be almost perfect. Retain realm. After sighing, Chenmu silently said in his heart. The next moment, a storm seemed to blow in his spiritual sea. Chenmu could feel that at this moment, his spiritual sea had at least doubled, and his perception seemed to be strengthened, his thinking was more agile, and the world seemed to be a little different in his eyes. Is this a wizard apprentice? This was completely different from the feeling when he became a knight. Chenmu didn't know how to describe this feeling. If he became a knight and his body was full of strength, then he became a witchcraft apprentice and his spirit was full of strength. This description is a bit abstract, but Chenmu really felt this way at this moment. Just when Chenmu was about to open the panel to see how much his mental strength had increased, a mechanical voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Chenmu was not unfamiliar with this voice. When he bound the simulator, it was also a mechanical voice. Please read.